Welcome back to 6 Months Left to Live. I'm Hank. I'm your host. It's great to be back. Hope everybody's doing good these days. So where we left off, at this point, I'm dealing drugs pretty good. Money wise, it's making me feel a little bit better for the money I've lost. So that part I'm okay with. It's nerve wracking, but now I'm kind of getting used to dealing drugs, and I'm not going to say I enjoyed it by any stretch, but I'm comfortable with it. Because the more I did it, the more I was feeling pretty confident about how to do it. Like I said, I've never dealt drugs before, but I know I needed the money, and I know that my family needed the money. When you're backed up against the wall, folks, I'm not going to say you'll do just about anything to feed the family and pay the bills, but that's where I found myself at because, making an income the way I was, then losing that income, and then still having the bills coming in, it's a scary, scary, scary process. And so I did not have a problem doing what I was doing at that moment. I just didn't. I don't know how to explain it. I didn't like it, but in order to sleep at night, I just told myself I'm doing it for my family. Because, I could have, since I needed the money, I could have gone out and robbed a bank. I didn't want to do that. I could have done a number of things to make money. None of it was really desirable. I wasn't going to go down on the streets of Miami and do sexual favors for $5. That ain't my style either. So, this was, in my opinion, at that moment in my life, was the best way to get past all of this. So my days consisted of that. I was doing everything I can to do those things. And so by this time, I had established a little transportation business. Just for people that I knew and all that. So I was making some money, taking people to their doctor's office and wherever they needed to go. Kind of like a ride sharing, but I did not want to do that ride sharing. So I just did it myself. And that kind of gave me a purpose as well. Not only was I doing that, making some money, I was selling drugs. I had my disability coming in. I was gambling. I was just doing about anything to keep myself busy at that time in my life, and so as far as the dynamics of my family, my wife and 3 kids, I was still drinking pretty damn hard at that point. Not that I was drinking a lot of day drinking, but if I got my stuff done that morning, I would come home and at lunchtime and have a few beers and take a nap and then maybe go back out and do a couple of errands and then come back home. So that part was really tough on all of us. And I didn't, like I said, this was all new territory to me. And being the leader of my house, I had to figure it out. This was just not the way to go, but I didn't imagine my life ended up like this. It was, like I said, besides the scary part of it, it was a tough time for my whole house. And so, during that time, as much as I wanted to keep it together mentally and be positive and have an outlook for my kids, it wasn't jiving the way that I wanted it to. There was a lot of fighting amongst us, mainly because of me. My wife and I were arguing too much. I was getting aggravated with the kids too much. I don't think they liked me. I think they've always loved me, but at that point I had really pushed them away, just because I was falling apart mentally. I was so angry during all this time. And it, just because of the money that I was missing, because I had something wrong with me. Shit. I've been diagnosed with this, and this. And I've told you, I was pissed off to the nines. And I don't know how to recoup all of that. I don't know how to grasp that. So one of the very other things that I started doing that kind of turned my life around was I got a good priest. I've always believed in God, so I started going to my priest more often than I was. And I am not a teetotaler or a Bible thumping person, but I do believe in God, and so I really tried to rely on that part of me to get me on the straight and narrow with all of this, what's going on. So I started going to my priest and I started going to church more than I ever have in my life. And that kind of was a turning point of my road to recovery as far as having a positive outlook on life. That was it. And it made me feel better. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew I was being sinful by selling drugs and doing the things I was doing and using and the way I was treating people. So I'm not sitting here saying that I was going to my priest in church just to have some forgiveness and ask God for doing the things I'm doing. Because I'm not saying I was going to do what I had to do. It's just that damn simple. And you put yourself in that situation where you had the income, now you don't have the income, and now how are you supposed to make that income? And I wasn't going to screw around with it. I was going to make sure the bills were paid. I was going to make sure there's clothes on the back. I was going to make sure we had food on the table. And I was going to make sure that my kids could continue to be kids, because that's what they were used to. That's where all those things we have, as all these years. So during that time, so I do this for a good while. I do the drug dealing for a good while. And it's almost like I'm proud of it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like, F it. I don't care what people think. I don't care what people think. And so, but my wife didn't know, my kids didn't know. They knew that there was money coming in, and I was telling them that I was getting it from my little transportation business. I was doing some little bit of odd jobs here and there to make a little cash on the side. So I felt guilty about lying to them about it, but they didn't need to know. They don't need to know all those things, how to, as kids, they don't understand that. I didn't want my wife to find out because I didn't want her to be disappointed in me, because that's a biggie. I don't want my wife to be disappointed in me or my kids. So we kind of trucked through that summer, and everything's kind of flowing. I'm not really happy. I'm a little less mad. I'm still drinking heavy, but at least I've got somewhat of a purpose for getting up in the morning and going to do some of the things I'm doing, because I'm making some money for my family. And that's what you have to do. You have to find something that's going to fulfill that void in your life that I had for 27 goddamn years, getting up and going to work. I had to fill something with that. I had to fill my time with that, because all these years that I had gone up and got to work, and I've killed something, I brought it home. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working. My work ethic is still good. And growing up in small town Tennessee, my dad did instill us, good work ethics as far as that goes. But I wasn't going to let this take that away, as much as I didn't want to. And so that's where I found myself. So I was working hard, and I felt, I don't want to say gratifying, but I guess I felt a little bit more satisfied. So I felt like I was getting up in the morning, I was getting dressed, and I was going to do something. I wasn't doing my old job, and never will and never won't and all that shit. But you work. Imagine you doing your job now, and all of a sudden tomorrow someone says, okay, something's wrong with you. and you've got to cut that down. So, folks, you better damn well have a plan of action if you want to fulfill that void in your life. God forbid anything ever happens, because it'll split. It'll rip you apart. It'll rip a marriage apart. It'll rip a family apart. And it was beginning to rip my extended family apart. My marriage and my relationship with my kids were, it was hanging in there. But as far as the extended family, my parents, my brother, not my friends, but that was becoming a big rift between us. How I was conducting my business, what I was saying, what I was doing. Not that they were knowing a whole lot, but they were in Tennessee. And so let me tell you something. That really sucked ass. I ain't gonna lie to you, because we've always been a tight-knit family, and now here we are. That relationship is breaking at the seams. They don't really have a relationship with me anymore, not my kids, not my wife, any of this stuff here. So that was really, really hard on all of us at that point. And so I was desperately trying to get back some of that we had lost through all of this shit. I was definitely, but it ain't easy. And you have to come up. I didn't have a plan, but you have to come up with a goddamn plan. In order to get past these hiccups in life, you have to be able to okay, now get a hold of yourself, say this to yourself, come up with something and execute it. And that's how I started approaching this disease in my life. And that's really kind of made me how I turned somewhat around to a point where I'm at right now today. But this has been a while back. So that was kind of the turning point. Now, I'm not saying I just all of a sudden woke up and did all this stuff. What I'm saying is that I goddamn was determined to have some kind of peace in my life through all of this. Regardless, before I die, before whatever this disease kills me, I was going to have some goddamn happiness in my life. And I was going to show not only to myself, but to my wife and 3 kids mainly. Hell with everybody else. But those 4 people living in my household, Hank was going to be happy. And it was that simple. That simple. And I was going to show them that I could be happy on anything I could do and anything I was doing at that point. And I was going to be there for them and be good advice for them. I wasn't going to be a drunk and miserable and die from this stupid disease. I just wasn't going to do it. But I was still on that track. Don't get me wrong. I was still on that track. So, folks, that's, and it ripped my extended family and my family. And that's coming up on the next episode, on how, something like this, and be careful, folks. And you hear these things, a couple loses a child or something happens dramatically in their life. And, you hear them getting divorced or someone killing themselves or whatever hiccup in life there is. You better have a strong mind, because it can rip the whole relationship and whole life apart. And that's what was happening to the seams of my family in Tennessee, my brother, my parents, and it's still not right to this day. And so, but let me tell you, if Hank can do it, I know you can do it. Okay, folks, that's today, and I appreciate everything. Remember, we're on Spotify, we're on TikTok, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube. Please like and share and comment anything that I can do for you. I've got more to come on all of this. It gets more interesting and to the point where I'm at today. And you're going to, because this is a good ending to all of this, as sucky as this sounds sometimes, I want to make sure that people understand that I'm in a good place now. And I'm as happy as I can be going through all the shit I have. So anyway, have a good day, folks. This is Hank. Have a good one. I'll see you next time on 6 Months Left to Live. Thank you.